Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for OPE, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for OPE, you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.
Hello and welcome to another episode of OPE. We are the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. I am Iowa Joe. This is episode 2 of my OPE Unscripted series where we just bring on anybody and everybody to talk whatever topic that I decide to talk about for that episode. This week, I have a very special guest. We kind of connected a couple of years back. He was a third-round pick for the Los Angeles Angels or Anaheim Angels or whatever team they decided to be that year in 2017. He played in the Atlanta Braves organization for years, which is how I kind of got into it because I am, as people know, I'm a huge Braves fan going way back. Also, there's a little bit of a spiritual connection there that I might touch on in a little bit, but Jacob Pearson. Jacob, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Looking forward to the conversations and where they go.
So I said a little bit of a spiritual connection. If everybody just gives me a moment to kind of, obviously my last name is Pearson. I always try to, if I see somebody who's got the same name, I always try to connect with them. But Jacob also has a special name for me because I was supposed to have an older brother. He was born premature, didn't survive, but his name was actually Jacob Pearson. So when I saw that, when I was going through the Atlanta Braves roster, and I was like, okay, well, what do we got in the minor leagues? I saw Jacob's name pop up. I was like, wow. And the other funny thing is I think he was supposed to be born in June, and I think your birthday is actually in June. So
it is. That's crazy. What a weird. Stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy the doppelgangers and the names that kind of appear all across the country. And I have this thing where I believe a name kind of signifies the character that person's going to be. And it's so important to pick out a name for somebody. And we just had another baby a couple weeks ago. And our first son, we named him Jesse, not knowing that he was just going to be this wild Western kid. But here he is. He's a Wild West, and he's just a maniac of a 3-year-old. And so it's the names are crazy. And I think that that's very cool that your brother had the same name.
Well, and the other thing is I think your name is Taylor. Mine is Tyler. So we share the same JTP through it too. So
sweet.
Just kind of some weird things there. But I noticed that your family loves the J names because I think you got a brother, Josh.
I got a brother, Josh. I got a brother, John. I got a cousin, Joe. I got, and my son's name's Jesse. My wife's side of the family is the same way. We got Jordan, we got Johnny, actually a couple Johnnies there. So yeah, we are deeply rooted in the J names.
Hey, when you got something, stick with it. I've got a cousin that on my mom's side, it's her nephew that for some reason they want to name all their kids with A names. So they like Ayla and Aspen. And so if it's something that works for you, go for it.
Right. Exactly.
But we didn't bring you on to talk about family, even though family is I know with you being from Louisiana and down south, the family is big time for everybody down there.
Right.
But obviously you're a former, I say former now, you're in real estate as we were kind of talking a little bit earlier, but you did spend quite a few years in the major leagues, minor league baseball, but they still consider it, it's all pro ball when you're talking generalized. you were a third round pick to the Angels in 2017. We are more of an NFL draft type group, but it's kind of interesting to see the differences between the MLB and NFL when it comes to the draft. What were your experiences leading up to the 2017 draft?
Yeah, so I mean, going into it, I wasn't the guy, and nowadays like high school ball and showcase and all this stuff has become really prominent. Well, when I was coming up, that was kind of when the showcase ball kind of started to kick off, and they had these events, and I was getting invited to a lot of these events to go to, and then leading up to the draft, I was meeting with all 30 teams. The scouts and scouting directors were coming to my house for dinner, and we had an idea. I was committed to LSU. We had an idea that I was probably going to get drafted, but we just didn't know where. And at that time, NIL wasn't a thing. So, the money was two different things. College coaches couldn't even buy me a meal at that point. So, um, yeah, so we were like, okay, if the money's right, I'm going to take that route, and then MLB is going to pay for my college and so forth. But leading up to it, it was a lot of traveling. We went to LA, Houston, Tampa, just to all these pre-draft events, so to speak, and to meet with their headquarters and kind of see, what would be a good fit. And they were more so interviewing me than I was them. And and then yeah, we get day one we get several calls. That was draft rounds 1 and 2. We get several calls. One team actually made an offer. It fell through, and then went early on day 2 in the third round.
So you just said that you had some talks with round 1 and 2. So how do with the NFL draft? There's no real talks. It's if they want you, they're gonna take you. So you're saying that with the MLB draft that they'll actually start negotiating with you on the phone,
Yes.
and and,
Yeah.
and that's
So
when they'll take you.
yeah, I was definitely not a first rounder by any means. No team was calling me in the first round. I mean, there was really good guys ahead of me. I started getting calls in the second round, probably 10 or 15 picks ahead of the slotted pick that they were planning on taking me. And and it was quick conversations. They'd call, "Hey, would you take X amount of money? Um, we'll give you this for college." And then that was pretty much the end of the conversation. And they would call a list of 4 or 5 guys. And and in that was negotiating between my agent and the teams and myself, and like I said, probably 3 or 4 or 5 other guys. And the one offer we got in the second round was around pick 50 to 55. I don't remember exactly. um, and they offered me, and we came to terms, and then we're sitting there watching the TV, and they pick another kid for half the amount of money. So it just goes to show that they got a same profile style player, but they went under slot to get them, and they saved money to be able to use later on in the draft. And at that point, I didn't understand the financials of the draft and how they were moving money from rounds 1 and 2 to rounds, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 10. I didn't understand that at the time, but as it was going on, it was very stressful. And I did learn that yes, teams are, I mean, they go in there with a game plan. Everyone does. Everybody goes into something with a game plan. And at pick 5, when a dude gets picked that wasn't supposed to be picked at pick 5, it throws the rest of the draft off. And then, by the time I was pick 85. By the time it gets to 85, it's just kind of a crap show. And so they're planning ahead 10 or 15 picks, and they're trying to call. And if this happens, then we're going to take him. If this doesn't happen, then you're not getting picked. And at that point, I was just turned 19 years old. I had no idea what the behind the scenes looks like after spending 7 years in professional baseball and watching the draft every year. I understood what those kids felt when they were getting drafted, and just the anxiety and emotions that roll through the player side of it, but also being there with the front office whenever they're having these conversations leading up to the draft. They're coming and visiting the players at all the affiliates, and meeting with them, and you can just see they're also anxious and they're also nervous on who they're going to select. So it's chaotic. The draft, I mean, it's literally just a crap show. And I think I mean, it's good the way it works out, but it is very nerve wracking for all parties, not just the players, but also the teams as well.
Yeah, I can believe it because what it used to be that there was like 30 to 40 rounds in the MLB draft. I think what they do, they finally cut it down to 20.
Yeah, so they let's see, it was 40 rounds whenever I went. Um, and before that, they actually had unlimited rounds. It would just go until they stopped picking. And then during COVID, they cut it down. I think COVID was only a 10 round draft. And then the year
Yeah.
after COVID, they went up to 20 rounds, and that's kind of where it is nowadays. So,
But that's crazy to think because, like I said, we're a big NFL draft podcast here, and we just got done with all our draft coverage and that, and that's 7 rounds, 250 some picks. We know what we're looking at. We know what's going on, and like I said, with those guys, it's just something as simple as, "Hey, we want you. We're taking you." There's no
right.
ifs, ands, or buts about it. And like you said, with the baseball, with the overslot and the underslot money, and well, we're going to take this guy because with the Braves organization, they tend, or there for a while, they tend to, with the first round pick, they'll take an underslot guy with whatever pick that they have, and then that way they can, because, well, we're going to take this college guy later and offer him more, or this high school guy later and offer him more money because we took a college guy in the first round and we're able to get him underslot. So it is a very interesting situation, and that's way above my pay grade when it comes to.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so you get drafted. You know, not saying it's not as big of a deal as like the NFL, but are do you have like a draft party going on during the draft, or is it just simple as you're sitting there with your folks and whatever, and if I get a call, I get a call. If I don't, then hey, it doesn't end the next day. But do you do kind of like the NFL where you invite a bunch of people over and have a big meal in that?
Yeah, so I like to be like Michael from The Office. I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious. My dad says it's bad luck to be superstitious. So, which is just contradicting. But um, I didn't want to have this big party, and being a second or third round high school, where you're a high school player, but they're projecting you second or third round. That could really be, you're getting paid in the second round, or you're not getting drafted at all because they didn't give you the money. And so I didn't want to do anything like that. I just wanted to be around family, watch the draft. Now we did after I got drafted, and we came to terms about a week later. I was set to fly out 2 weeks after the draft day. So about a week later, we did have a little get together at the house, but nothing draft party night. Now, if you're projected a first rounder, you know, more than likely you're going to get picked in the first 2 rounds or first 3 rounds, and you can do that. I'm like, I'm not gonna have a whole get together and then me not get picked. So
Yeah, I mean, you hear about someone with the NFL that they were out. I met a guy in Green Bay one time that was actually drafted by the Lombardi Packers, and he said that he didn't even know he got drafted until uh uh somebody called him on the phone and said, "Hey, did you realize you just got drafted by the Packers?" And he didn't know that. Or you hear about the guys that are out just playing catch on their porch with their brother or their dad or whatever, and they get a phone call from a. So it's just amazing how people end up doing that. But so you get drafted. Where are they telling you you're going to initially start? Do they have a plan for you right away, or are they like, well, we're just going to put you here and see how you go from there?
yeah, so I was drafted by the Angels, and about 2 weeks later, I get flown out to Arizona. They tell me they're going to do all my medical screenings, physicals, all this stuff, um, and there if there was definitely a game plan in place for me, but I just wasn't aware of it. I started in the AZL, played in the AZL. I didn't really know kind of they told me on the front end, hey, go out here. This is a short season. Go out there, play, have fun, and then we're going to reevaluate in spring training on what we think you need to do for next year. And so I had no idea. I just went out there, played ball, had fun. Didn't, I knew that there were teammates of mine that had been in the AZL for 2 or 3 years. And I'm like, look, that's not something I want to do. I don't want to be stuck in, short season ball for 3 years. And at this point they still had, I can't even remember the league, the Pioneer League. It was still a Pioneer League, and it was a short season, but it was like a in between. It was like rookie advanced or whatever. I don't remember what they called it. But I was just in AZL rookie ball at the spring training sites, and I was ready to get out of there. And so I played. I had fun. I did whatever, and I attended all the off-season camps. I wanted to be as proactive as I could because my goal was to get out of there and ultimately get to the big leagues. And I'm sure we'll get to it at some point, but I was traded in December of my first year. So I get drafted in June and traded in December. And so my time with the Angels was very, very, very short lived. So if they had a plan, it didn't play out because I wasn't around anymore.
So yeah, you did mention you got traded. What and that was after your first year. Um, who did you end up going to?
So it's actually a really funny story. I was traded. This is when Shohei Ohtani was coming over to the United
Yeah.
States, and I was traded to Minnesota for $1 million of international signing money. And so I was a direct, just cash trade over to Minnesota. The Angels took that $1 million and bought Shohei Ohtani. So indirectly, but directly, I was traded for Shohei Ohtani.
So you're responsible for yeah. Well, did you ever reach out to him? I know he's like this big star. Did you ever reach out and say, "Hey, if it wasn't for me, you probably wouldn't be over here"?
Yeah, I wish my agent would have negotiated some piece of that contract. But no, it was it was a piece of the puzzle. But I got out of there. I went to Minnesota, and I loved my time in Minnesota.
Yeah, I was looking at that because it said Cedar Rapids, and I'm like, okay, well, I know Burlington is because here in Iowa, we don't have a pro team, but there's a lot of minor league teams all over the place in Iowa, and
Right.
Burlington, which is about an hour east of us, is the Angels affiliate. So I was like, well, I
Right.
don't see him playing for the Burlington Bees, but I see Cedar Rapids here. Now it makes a little bit more sense because of Minnesota. What was your time like in Cedar Rapids?
So yeah, I got traded in December. Show up to spring training the next year. They start me off and extended because I'm a high school kid to a new organization, so they're figuring out what game plan they want to approach me with. And so I start off in extended spring training, just doing my thing, having fun, showing up every day. And a guy gets hurt, and actually it's Akil Badu, who ends up going to play for the Tigers in the big leagues. And he's bounced around the big leagues quite a bit, but he gets hurt, and I'm an extended. Well, they call me up to Cedar Rapids, and I meet him in Kane County, just outside Chicago, and just I don't know, just click, start playing. I spend the rest of the season there, which is just a couple months, and then I start back up there the next season, and my goal is to get out of Dodge. My goal is to get out of there, and the Minnesota at that point had formulated what I thought was a great game plan for me. And we had step by step what we're going to accomplish this week, what we're going to do to keep moving forward, and like I said, ultimately get to the big leagues. And it was progressing. Like we had our bumps and ups and downs, but it was slowly progressing across. And 2019 comes around. I start in Cedar Rapids, finishing the Florida State League, which was high A at the time. Do well there, and then we roll into spring training 2020, and I hop on the big league flight to the Dominican Republic, and we go play the Tigers in a big league game in the DR. And so in my head, I'm thinking, we're going to AA this year, AAA the next year, big leagues the next year, if everything continues to progress. And obviously, you get to AA, things definitely slow down for a lot of guys. But then COVID hits, and we get back from the DR. I mean, a week later, we're packing up and we're going home. And, they canceled the season that year. And then I get Rule 5 drafted to Atlanta. So that's how I ended up with Atlanta, was through the Rule 5 draft. So my time with Minnesota was very thought out, very planned, and it was going along, as I would have expected. And I actually really did enjoy. They treated me amazing there. They treated me like family, and that was just a great organization. I made a lot of good lifetime friends there that I'm still in touch with today.
So that kind of touches on, like I told Jacob earlier, I put up a couple of threads on Reddit in both the Braves and the Angels uh, forums to ask for questions, and Bab1286 asked, "How did you manage the COVID year?" On his reference, it says he was in between stints at A ball and Double A, and may have been not under contract during that time. But basically, it was because they canceled the season for that year, and so how did you manage it? Did you go out and keep training? Did you just go home and relax for a bit, but still kind of worked out to keep in shape, or how did you manage that year?
Yeah, so it wasn't canceled up front. So we got sent home like March 8th, March 10th, somewhere around there. And they kept telling us, we'll be back next week. We'll be back next week. This COVID thing's going to die off. We'll be back next week. And this goes on until June. And so, we passed 2 full months, April and May, 2 full months of we'll be back next week. Keep training. So I'm full training, fully practicing. I'm working out with we have a university in town called Louisiana Monroe. I'm working out with them, ULM, and we're all social distancing, wearing masks indoors, but we're training still. And I might be mistaken on this, but I believe it wasn't until maybe middle of July or end of July before they actually announced the cancellation of the minor league season. And so, but up until that point, I had been fully training to go back and maybe play like a shorter season, kind of like the big leagues. They had a shorter season, and it was just no fans in the stands, and we were fully anticipating of that. But when they canceled it, that was kind of where we step back and relax it. We usually end our seasons in September. This time we were ending at the end of July. So we basically had a month and a half early that we went into our off-season mode. And they're very smart. Whoever created MLB's schedule is very smart in how they do it. By the time September comes around, if you're not in the postseason, you're ready to go home. If you're in the postseason, you're ready to win the World Series and you're ready to go home. By the time the end of January comes around, that short little 3 or 4 months of off season hits you, you're missing baseball so much you can't wait to get back. And it's almost like if those schedules were mixed up 6 months and 6 months, you wouldn't be ready to finish the season yet, and you'd be dragging along waiting for season to come on. So the way they built the schedule, so that year, the COVID year, we ended early, but I had been home since March. And so it was like, July, August. And I'm like, when are we going to play ball? We're expecting that we're going to have a fall camp. We're expecting we're going to show up and we're going to play fall ball for 2 or 3 months in the fall. Well, none of that happened. And so we were off from March and pretty much, I mean, we just got there February. So we were pretty much a whole year was just completely gone. And we were missing baseball so much. Well, come December, they had their winter meetings. They do the Rule 5 draft. And I'm training at ULM and we're hitting. And I get a call from one of the guys in the Atlanta Braves organization. He said, "Hey, Jacob, I just want to welcome you to the Atlanta Braves." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm with Minnesota." And he was like, "Well, we just picked you in the Rule 5 draft." And I'm like, "Oh, crazy. So I'm going to the big leagues," because from my understanding at the time, they have an MLB Rule 5 draft, and I didn't know they had a minor league Rule 5. So the MLB, they have to put you in the big leagues for the year, or they send you back to your other team. And so I'm like, I'm going to the show. Here we go. I'm going to the show with Atlanta. And then he was like, he explained the minor league Rule 5 to me, and I was like, oh man. So my emotions were like here to here to here, all in a 2.5 minute phone call. But yeah, the time off from COVID it was hard. It was good. It was needed for you to want to be back on that baseball field and want to like continue to play and want like just missing it. It was bad because you missed almost a year and a half of live reps. So you would still do your live ABs and I would still do all this, but here in Louisiana we don't have a big market of MLB players. So I'm facing against college guys, and no, don't get me wrong, they have good stuff, but that's the
Yeah.
limit of my competition. So for 8 months, that's all I'm hitting against, and so I felt like by the time spring training rolls around again, we're running through this COVID stuff, still social distancing, still wearing our mask. We finally get on the field, and everything just feels rushed. And it's like, okay, we got to get right back into it. Like you never got off the wagon. Well, we were off the wagon for 14 months. So, and the minor leagues had started their spring training a month later in 2021, behind the big leagues. So it was a lot. It was a lot going on, and it definitely took some time to get back in the rhythm for a lot of people, not myself included, but a lot of people took some time to get back on the wagon because we've been off for so long. And yeah, the COVID thing really, it messed up a lot, but it made me miss baseball so much during that time that I couldn't wait to get back out there. And then we had to deal with all the COVID stuff too. So it
I
was
think it was
chaotic.
I think as fans we agreed to, but we understood the situation, so you can't
Yeah.
ask for much with that. But you kind of mentioned something with the success of the big league team affects the rest of the system. This leads into the other question about from Jacob Howell over on Reddit. From a minor leaguer, how much do you care about the success of your big league squad? Not individual players, but how much they're winning and if they are playing championship level baseball.
Yeah, that affects us. I mean, tremendously. It really does. I mean, you're constantly rooting for the big league team. You're watching the big league team. It's on in the clubhouse every single day. It's not, and I think a lot of people have this misconception of you want the guy in front of you to do bad so that you can get up there. And that's not quite the case. Like we're all friends and it's just you're waiting for your moment. You're waiting for your call. It could happen on a trade, it could happen on anything. You want everyone to do well. You don't want to against anybody because at that point it brings back into that I'm a little stitious. You root against somebody, you're going to have bad things happen to you. And so no, you're rooting for that next guy. And the success in 21 with Atlanta was something that like just being in the minor leagues was really really fun to watch. We had a ton of fans at the minor league games. We had a ton of like support and care. When the big league club's doing good, everybody's doing good. And so we win the World Series the following year. We have better food. We have better services. We have everything better because the big league club's winning. If your double A affiliate's winning, your big league team is losing, nobody cares. Right. So, but if the big league club's winning, everybody's winning. And I have a friend that's in the Dodgers organization right now, Taylor Young, and the Dodgers are obviously doing really well and they're getting treated like kings in double A. So it's just, you want them to do well so that it's fun across the board. No matter what level you're at, you're getting treated fair.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Now, do they? Now, wasn't it the year after that the Braves won that was it Mississippi won their version of the World Series, or was it the year
Yes, it was the same
before?
year. It was the
Same year.
same
That's
year.
it. That's it.
Yep. So
So
2021. Yeah, 2021 we had won, and then a lot of the guys that were on that part of that double A championship left to go to the alt site because we still had this whole COVID thing going on with alt sites and big leagues. And so a lot of guys left to go to the alt site, and then Atlanta wins it, and it's just across the organization we just feel like winners. So
so now you were part of that double A championship team. Do they
yes.
do you end up getting a ring like the big league does, or do they do anything for you guys like similar to what they do for the big league team?
Yeah, we do get a ring, and we get a very nice ring. It's not to the extent of the major league ring with how much money is invested into it, but it is a very nice ring, and it comes in a nice showcase box with lights and stuff. And yeah, my ring is in my gun safe, so it's it's very nice though, and they did that for everybody that was on that team at some point in the year.
But it's not one of the detachable ones like the big league got.
No,
I
my
couldn't believe
brother,
that when they were showing off that design that it comes off and it shows the
yeah,
truest field inside. I was like, okay, now we're getting a little ridiculous with that, but
my brother, he has so he's won two national championships at LSU
yeah.
for baseball, and their last ring, it actually detaches and it's got a clamp on it to go on a necklace. So
Oh,
you wear it
really?
as like a necklace or a ring, and it's absurd. So
Hey, I guess if you're that good at what you're doing, you might as well celebrate it. But um, so with being in the affiliates, how is it, what's the living situation like? With the big league, they usually have their own houses, apartments, whatever in the area, and then of course, when they're traveling, it's hotel stays and all that. What's it like for the affiliates when it comes to being, not from the area, so you're having to stay somewhere? Is it kind of similar?
I can only speak for the organizations I played for, but pre-COVID was a different ball game. Pre-COVID, we had host families. We had, uh, if you wanted your own place, you had to meet a certain requirement. You either had to go to Double A or be 25 years or older. Or, I don't remember the requirements, but you had to have requirements. And then you had to find your own rent. Like you just had to go rent something by yourself, and that was always a struggle. So I just typically stayed with the host family. And the Midwest, when I was in the Midwest League, we had host families that were outstanding, and we still communicate back and forth. I mean, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, did me amazing. I met so many great people up there. Now, when I went to Florida, the Florida State League, um, we had a spring training housing complex with Minnesota. So the guys that were in extended spring training and the guys that went to short season, like the FCL or GCL, they had on site living for those young guys. And so they gave us the option in the Florida State League if we wanted to live in that, and it cost us, I think, $15 a day maybe. Um, and so I took that route because it was just right there on site. I could just walk across. Um, my wife was in school, and we weren't married yet at the time, but she was my fiance, and at the time she was still in school. So, she wasn't coming down, and I was just going to walk across the street and go to the field. Well, then COVID hits, and we're going into spring training 2020, the same mentality. Well, when they cancel the season, they start reconstructing a lot of things, and the minor league living situation is one of them because they cancel host families. So we show up in the spring of 21, and we're expecting to go live with host families. Well, at that time, they just canceled them, and we were headed to Jackson, Mississippi for Double A, and we had nowhere to live. So I ended up because we couldn't do the host family thing, and most people were going and getting rent houses. Well, as a minor leaguer, you don't qualify for a lot of rent houses because they ask for your income, and when your income is $13,000 a year, they're like, "No way, Jose! Like you're not getting into my rent house." And so it would be five or six guys, piling up in a room. 2021 was the last year this happened. Luckily, my parents had a camper, and so I pulled the camper over to Jackson. I lived in a camper all summer, and then 2022 happens. They passed this new housing act where the teams actually have to provide housing to the players, and this was huge. This was known to be happening in hockey and other sports, and this came to baseball, and it changed a lot. And they had these amazing requirements. If you were married or you had children, you get your own place. And that was fantastic because my wife now could come stay with me and not have, four other roommates in the house. That makes it complicated. And so the Braves did an outstanding job with me. They supported me no matter what level I went to. They gave me my own place, and they really took care of me in that regard. And a couple things that changed. They do tell you where you live, but it has to meet certain requirements by MLB. So they are actually really nice apartments, and they're spending a lot of money for them for every single player to have one. They are really nice, and they do a good job of keeping them clean. You have a cleaning lady that comes every single time you go on the road, so you come back and your apartment's clean. And the schedule would be, week at home, week on the road, week at home, week on the road. So your apartment's getting cleaned once, every week. So it was a really good setup. 22, and then my last season was 23. So, I only got a little bitty time with the good way of living, but it worked out. I was blessed to have experienced it.
Does that spoil you? So then when you get home and it's not getting cleaned as often?
Yeah, definitely. It does. And an apartment's a lot smaller space. You don't have a lot to keep up. You don't have to cut the grass. You don't have to do all these things. And now, just being in Louisiana, we live on 5 acres, so you got a big yard to maintain. You got to keep the house clean. And then you got kiddos now too in the picture that are just finding a way to tear it all up. um, but yeah, no, I did get spoiled with it. I didn't realize how spoiled I was with it until now when I look back at it.
So you mentioned that a lot of places wouldn't rent to you because, they look at the financial situation. How did you guys handle now with you being a third round pick, you did get a decent bonus compared to some, but obviously that doesn't last, forever. But how do you survive a minor league season, making only this much? And then when it comes to the off season, are you having to go out and get some kind of job to support what you're doing?
Right. Yeah. So the sign on bonus for me, and you know, the majority of players on the field aren't getting huge bonuses. Mine floated me. So it provided my off season living expenses, training expenses, everything I needed while I was playing. I was dedicating that money to that. During season, I tried to live on my paycheck alone. And, it's not super hard, because you're getting provided 2 meals a day. Um, the only thing, and you're getting provided transportation. The only thing you really have to cover is 1 meal a day and living expenses. So, if you had a house back home that you were paying a mortgage on, that's a different ballgame. That's 2 living expenses you're having to pay for. That could get expensive. But for me, um, like I said, during pre-COVID, I was living with host families, so my housing was covered, and my that 1 meal a day, my host families would wake up and make me breakfast. It was awesome. So I got to pocket the $13,000. It's not a lot of money, but you get to pocket it all, and that
Yeah.
does it does go a lot further. Um, but then 21 was a little bit rougher because I was coming out of pocket, to keep my RV or the camper at this campground. I was having to pay all the utilities on it. I was having to pay, and the way most guys get around it is they pile six guys into an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment,
Yeah.
2 guys in each room and 2 guys in the living room, and you just split the cost 6 ways, and it ends up being fairly inexpensive. But that's how the most of the guys do it. But those 2 meals a day, and then you're stuck. You're not stuck, but you are at the field the majority of the day. You're not going out and spending a lot of money. You're at work, so yeah, it's the best way to save money is go to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, you hear stories about back in the day that, oh, we went out partying, we went out, did this. But then they wonder why a lot of these younger guys going up are just spending time gaming or doing that stuff because it's inexpensive.
Yeah, it is. It's super cheap, and it keeps you out of a lot of trouble outside of baseball. You always hear the stories of people going out and getting in trouble, and that could end up costing them their career depending on what they did. I mean, if you're at home playing video games, the likelihood of you getting in trouble is significantly lower.
Yeah, yeah,
So
for sure. Hit on another one of these questions here real quick. Big Papa Chuck, gotta love it. Big Papa Chuck 73.
Nice.
Did any big leaguers on a rehab assignment do anything cool for the minor league team?
Every single time we had a guy, we would have guys. I played in Rome for a little bit one summer, and Rome was an hour away from Atlanta, so they would send a lot of rehab guys. And most of the time, they're ordering steak. You're getting to eat really well that night. And it was, I mean, that was kind of the extent of it. Like they order really good food, and if they have like in Mississippi, we'd have somebody come in, and in Mississippi it was a little bit further away, so they might stay for 2 or 3 days, and you're eating really well for 2 or 3 days for every single meal, and their tab is $10,000 to feed all these baseball players. And you don't really, you're looking at a $50 steak, and you're like, wow, this is really good, but you don't understand that he just came out of pocket 10 grand to feed all these people. And so they were always really kind. And no, we never had any issues on a rehab assignment. I mean, they always took great care of us.
Can you give any specifics on who was the best one that you spent time with?
I don't know if I can give.
I don't want to get you in
When I was
trouble. I don't want somebody,
no, no, I don't think a name is gonna get me in any kind of trouble. I'm just trying to remember who all did the rehab
right.
at my affiliations. CJ Crone came when I was with Minnesota, and I thought it was a really cool because he went out there and hit like 2 homers and 2 doubles, and we're eating steaks at the end of the game, and I thought that was a really neat experience. But we had some really, I mean, some really big name players come through. It's just like I said at the beginning, you're all friends, so
Yeah.
you're not trying to compete. You're not trying to make anything a competition. You really just compare who did the best on the field. You know, everyone treats you fairly at that. When you get to the big leagues, they really do a great job of treating the minor leaguers great.
Did you ever get starstruck?
Um, I did. So one of my first at bats in the AZL. Um, this is after weeks of testing, weeks of getting acclimated to 120 degrees, um, all these crazy just things that they required me to do before I could ever step foot on a field. One of my first few at bats, Madison Bumgarner was rehabbing, and
Oh,
so
really?
I'm facing Mad Bum. I'm facing Mad Bum. Literally, like I mean, this is 2017. He came off of the 2012, 14, 2010, 12, 14, or whatever years it was that the Giants just
Yeah, it
went
seemed like it was
bananas.
every other year.
Yeah, and he's coming off of that, and I'm like, look, I'm facing literally the dude right now, and I just stood in the box, and I remember the first thing I was batting leadoff. The first thing that he did was give his pitch sign. Let's see, he told me a fastball was coming, and I'm in the batter's box, and I'm like, are you serious? Like this is a live game. This isn't batting practice. This is a live game. And he tells me a fastball's coming, and I was like, it's Madison Bumgarner. He might be trying to mess with me. So I take the first fastball down the middle. Next one, he tells me a curveball's coming. And I'm like, what is going on? I end up striking out on 3 pitches because I didn't believe him the whole time. When he did it twice, I was like, oh, that was a great setup to strike me out by misleading me on the pitch here. So he just had me in my dome the whole time, but I was starstruck.
That's crazy. That's good though. I mean, that if I had to do it, that'd be the way to do it. Because then, like
Yeah.
you said, on the third one, that would be the perfect time to mess you up.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
I did have to question something when I was looking because I wanted to look at your stats before really, do I always try to do a little background. I mean, I like I said, I do remember you from the Braves organization, and then once I put names together and all that, I try to follow people on that end. But on one side, it listed you coming out as a catcher. Did you start out as a catcher?
no, I think that's a misprint. Uh,
Okay.
I was a catcher in like youth baseball. My freshman year of high school, I was, and then I had shoulder surgery, and they moved me to the outfield. So I mean, there was no
Hmm.
scouts looking at me at my freshman year of high school, so there's no way that should be on there. But maybe it's a misprint. I did
Yeah,
catch
I
some
don't know.
bullpens in the minor leagues, if
Oh,
that
I
says
don't know,
anything. Yeah.
maybe that, but I don't know, it was really weird because it had you listed as catcher. I was like, I don't remember, and I've looked all over the place, and even Baseball Reference has you left field, center field, right field.
Right.
Um, so from my remembrance, you were more of a uh, don't take this as an offense or anything, but
No,
you
I
weren't quite
no, I
the
know.
you weren't a
Yeah.
power hitter. You were more the base hit speed type of guy.
Right.
Um, what's the difference when you're stepping in the box and obviously a power guy is looking more just to mash everything in sight. What's your mindset going through when you're stepping in the box?
Yeah. And so whenever I got traded to the Braves, my role completely changed. And this was the tone was set right away. Look, you're going to be our rover guy. You're going to go to whatever league we tell you to go to, and you're going to be the fourth outfielder. You're not going to play every day. You're going to be the fourth outfielder. And so trying to figure out that role whenever I was never really in that role prior to that, I was the everyday guy. And I move into this role. I don't really, my job was to get on base and produce runs. And so I try to have long at bats. My mindset was to go up there, not not swing early, not get myself out early. Extend this arm's pitch count, like get his pitch count up, and then find a way on base. And if that means hitting a ground ball through the sixth hole, if that means we got a guy on second, I got to drive one in the gap here. Whatever the situation kind of played out, that was what I was trying to accomplish then. But my goal every at bat was to make it to first base. And my goal every bat was to extend the at bat so that we could get this dude off the bump so that our power hitters got, a lesser of an arm to go up against.
But like I said, you were also a bit of a speed guy, so you did have a number of stolen bases. What when are you relying more on the coach when it comes to the stolen base, or are you relying more on your own scouting report, your own, inner clock or whatever when it comes to stealing a base?
Yeah. So when I was with Minnesota, we had a thing, and it's crazy how every organization's different. So when I was with Minnesota, we had a thing where we don't like stolen bases. It was kind of analytical. Stolen bases didn't produce more runs than they caused. If you got caught stealing, you cost us a base runner. So they didn't like stealing. So we wouldn't steal that much. We'd get it. We would rely on the coach for the sign when it was a good time to go. Now, when I got to Atlanta, they were free. They didn't care. Their goal was for us to understand baseball and develop to become the best baseball players all around. They like stolen bases. They wanted us to formulate a way to get the best jumps to get stolen bases because they saw a runner at first is now a runner in scoring position, and that made sense for them. And they would take the outs hit or miss because they were also a big power club. So if the guy gets out, the next guy can still hit a home run and score a run. So when I went to Atlanta, the tide shifted. I got some more freedom to run.
Yeah, it really shows because it says that you had 19 for your best year with in between the two leagues with Minnesota, but then you had a couple of years with the Braves organization of 19 or 25, 21, and then you had a couple of down years with it, but that also goes with games played and all that stuff. But um so I had a question I formulated in my head. Now I can't remember how I was going to put it, but so we'll go ahead and uh I had one over here. I have a couple more over here on the Reddit threads. Uh from the Angels Reddit, Unbounded Range asked, uh, and you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but we'll give him a little bit more of an answer to it. But he was interested in the quality of development across the organization. So I kind of asked him specifically what he meant, whether it meant, up and down between low A, double A, such like that, or between the Angels and Braves. Now, obviously, you've got three of them to go through. So, what's the quality of development between the three different teams you spent time with?
Okay. Yeah. So when I was with the Angels, I'm not going to say they weren't developing but for me personally, what they wanted me to do was go out there and play. I wasn't going to get any kind of extra attention because all they wanted me to do was go out there and play. And then starting the following year, we were going to start going through a checklist of how we were going to get to the big leagues. Now there were other guys that they were looking at and they were working with. So I can't really speak too much on the Angels because I wasn't there. They told me to go out there and play, and that was kind of my first year of development. When I got to Minnesota, they were a lot more analytical. So we had a lot more, Harvard, MIT guys walking around with their computers, and we got bat sensors, we got, chest sensors. They're wanting to know how many steps we're taking a day, how much we're on our feet, how much rest and sleep we should be getting. They were really big into the recovery. It seemed like I went from, hey, go out there, have fun, go play baseball, like just brute baseball, to I was at a university and they were studying me as a specimen. That's what it felt like. The complete polar opposite. And they did this with everybody. I mean, it wasn't one person. It wasn't a top 10 prospect. It was everybody. I mean, they were breaking down everybody. And I think maybe too much time was spent on it because then you kind of you're not spending as much time actually practicing the game. But, they were really putting forth an effort to make you a really great ball player. Now, when I go to Atlanta, it's the perfect blend. I mean, they're like, go out there, have fun. This is available if you want it. And that's what I really respected, because in Minnesota it was pressed on you, which I loved it. I'm an analytical guy, so I didn't have any kickbacks to it. The Angels, I didn't even have access to it. With the Braves, it was, hey, it's here if you want it. If you want to use it, feel free. We have all the resources to help you understand it. If you don't want to use it, go out there and play. And I thought that was the best blend of player development, because you have some guys that are almost reluctant to whatever you tell them. So if you're not going to go up there and tell Freddie Freeman how to hit. He knows how to hit, right? So it's pointless if you're forcing that on him. But the Braves, what they did was they allowed you to have the option if you wanted to. And I thought that was really wise. In Minnesota, they, I'm not sure if they had bad blood with some of the great players that came through there. I mean, there were several great players that came through there during my time, but I didn't also know what they were doing at the big league level either. They might not have been doing it there. They might have just been doing it in the minor leagues. So, but I thought the Braves overall did a great job of, hey, it's available if you want it. Here's how we can use it. If you don't want it, go out there and play. And I thought that was fantastic.
And also goes to show the Braves have had extended years of success, and nothing against Minnesota,
Right.
but they've not really had great success for a long time. So OSRS Sox asks, when you are in the minor leagues, how much pressure do you feel to perform well? How did you handle it?
Yeah, so my first year, I didn't really feel pressure because I didn't know that I was about to get traded. I didn't know any of these things. So I just kind of fully went into it. Hey, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna show up every day with a smile on my face. And then I'm gonna do everything as I would. I'm not gonna stress about nothing, I'm not gonna change nothing. And then when I show up for spring training, they're gonna have a game plan on how to get me to the big leagues. And I fully entrusted in that. I didn't change anything. I didn't change my swing mechanics. I didn't work on it. I just went out there and played and had fun like they told me to. When I got with Minnesota, when I got traded, my first meeting, I mean, this is spring training 2018. My first meeting is with like some of the higher ups with Minnesota. And they were like, you were a prospect that came out with power and speed, and you didn't steal any bags last year, and you didn't hit any home runs. Like, what's going on? What are you doing? Like, we're going to dig down. And I was like, whoa. I mean, I didn't, it wasn't that I wasn't not trying to hit home runs and not trying to steal bags. I just went out there and played and had fun like they told me to. I didn't know I was coming here where I'm going to get rained for it, but I ended up making really good friends with those guys, and they put me on a track that I thought was excellent, and it progressed me as a player, no doubt about it. And so, and that's kind of the extent of that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, every team's going to treat everybody differently. That's why they have so many different coaches and so many different, things going through it. So I finally formulated a question in my head, and this is just kind of a goofy off the wall one, but in your in your mind, which is more, how do I want to fulfilling, catching the final out of a game or hitting a walk off?
Hitting a walk off. One of my coolest memories, and this is a great story.
Let me see if I
I
can guess it, because I have one that's been in my mind since I talked about it. I
okay.
remember, and I had it saved on Twitter for a while because I was like, wow, that was, you hit a grand slam with Mississippi. I don't think it was a walk off. It
It
could have
was.
been. It was a walk off. So is that the one that you're going to mention here?
Yeah. So the funniest story about that scenario was I was in Gwinnett that morning. I was in AAA that morning, or actually, I'm sorry, I was not. I was with the Gwinnett team. We had just landed in Omaha, Nebraska, and it was. I mean, it was that morning. They said you're going to fly to Atlanta. You're going to go get your truck, and you're going to drive to Mississippi. They need you there. And I was rovering in the outfield, just whoever was not available, I'd fill in for. Well, they needed me in Mississippi because they needed another outfielder. So I fly to Atlanta, I get in my truck, and I drive to Mississippi, which is about 6 hours. And I get out, and it's like the third inning. And I'm not playing, obviously, because the game's already started. But the game goes into extra innings. And the coach comes down. He's like, hey, get a bat. You're probably going to pinch hit here. And sure enough, I come in 1 out, bases loaded. Like, come on, dude. Like, I'm either the hero or I'm the worst person in the world. And sure enough, and the funny thing about it was I was facing a pitcher, and I'm not going to name any names, but um, I have this software that I use in off season for training, and it does a great job of replicating live pitchers. It goes off several metrics that they use. The pitcher that I was facing is actually downloaded in my software. So I've seen his stuff 10,000 times and he doesn't even know it. So he goes out there and and he gets me like 0-1 or something like that, and then he throws me a low and in fastball, and it's like a cut style fastball, and I'd seen it 100, like I said, 100,000 times. I mean, I'd seen this pitch, and I just dropped the head on it, and off the bat I thought it was a sac fly because I didn't quite square it up. And so I'm like, oh, sack fly, game's over. And then it went over the fence, and I was like, wow, that was pretty good. That was pretty neat because I've been in Nebraska today. I've been in Georgia, and I drove through Alabama and got to Mississippi.
Yeah, I
So
remember that clip because I follow all the Braves affiliates on Twitter and that, and I remember that one popping up on the field. I was like, wow, that was that's something that, when you're a kid, that's what you're playing out in the
right,
backyard with your friends, and 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, grand slam for the
yeah,
win.
yep,
Uh,
exactly.
so I'm not going to keep you too much longer because I want to keep this about an hour so you can get with your family. And I know you said you got some grass to cut. So, but the whole bats left, throws right thing, how do you come
Yeah,
up with that when you're a kid? Is it just where you're natural, or is it your coaches are like, well, you're going to have a better success if you can do this more than you can do that?
you know, I didn't know. I didn't know the answer to that question until my son was born, and he picks up a baseball and he throws it right-handed, and he picks up a bat and he swings it left-handed. And this was when he was a year old. I mean, he could barely stand, barely walk around, and he's doing these things. And I'm like, okay, it's just natural. It's a natural ability to pick up a ball and swing it left-handed, pick up a ball right-handed, swing it left-handed. Now it's and you've probably seen this stat. There is not a single MLB player right now that throws left and hits right. So it's just opposite, but there's not a single player that does that right now in the MLB. And there's a lot of righty righty, a lot of lefty lefty, a lot of righty lefty, or throw right, hit left, but there's no lefty righty. And it is crazy to think about that. But my son, yeah, he picks up a bat left handed and throws right handed. And I guess it's just all natural.
Yeah,
I do golf
it's
right-handed
crazy.
though.
Yeah.
So that is, I don't understand that one. I swing a baseball bat left-handed, I golf right-handed.
Well, yeah, and like you said, the statistics there are weird, and then you look at like, well, you don't have any. You have like you mentioned Freddie Freeman. He bats left, but he throws right. But you don't have any of the opposite when it comes to first basemen. You don't have the opposite when it comes to catchers. And I've seen I'm sure you've seen videos of that where people have broke that down, where you don't really want the lefty catcher, you don't really want the lefty first baseman, but it's like, yeah, but if that's natural for them, you might as well let it be natural for them. So it always comes across my mind, like, do they grow up that way, or is that, something natural for them, or is that something like their coaches early on tell them, hey, just start doing this?
Yeah, no, you grow up natural, and then the way you are, you mold into a position. And so I was always a fast runner, but growing up, I played catcher and third base. And then when I had shoulder surgery, I couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher for a year. So I moved to the outfield where I only maybe threw 3 balls a game. And then I became an outfielder. And I think long term, that play made the most sense because I could go run down a fly ball, I could get it in. Um, it didn't always have the most accurate arm growing up, but being in the outfield, I didn't have to. So it ended up working out. And I think every player, no matter what age you are, I think the best thing to do is just go out there, have fun, be natural. Don't try to do something that someone else is doing. Just be natural, be you, and then that what you do is going to mold you into what player you need to become. Because if you try to do something, if I go try to hit like Shohei Ohtani, well, I'm not 6'6" or whatever, 6'5". I'm not going to hit the ball as hard. If I try to hit like Aaron Judge, I'm not 6'6". I'm not going to hit the ball as hard. Um, but I can look at guys similar like Brett Gardner. I can look at guys that had the same player profile and maybe try to mimic some things. But at the end of the day, you need to be natural. You need to be you and go out there and just have fun. And then the game will find a spot for you.
Did you grow up a Braves fan being from Louisiana? I know they have that whole culture down there.
So they do. And I'm going to get a lot of flack from Reddit when I say, but I've always grown up. So my dad was a Red Sox fan, and I
Okay.
grew up watching a lot of Red Sox games. Well, the Red Sox in the early 2000s, the height of the excitement was when the Red Sox played the Yankees. And so my dad would root for the Red Sox. Well, I started rooting for the Yankees. And then I became big fans of Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez. They had the whole squad: Robinson Cano, Mark Teixeira. I mean, they had Bernie Williams. Like they just had so many good players, and I really gravitated toward them. And I've been a Yankees fan ever since. I mean, to this day, I'm still watching Yankees games. Never got an opportunity to play for them, but I did play against them. Um, when you look at it from the inside out, like I'm watching. I'm on a field. I'm seeing Aaron Judge. I'm seeing Stanton, in spring training, and I see how they run their organization. I'm still a Yankees fan. Maybe I don't agree with everything they do, but I'm still, for entertainment purposes only, I'm going to watch the Yankees.
You're gonna kill a lot of Braves fans with that, because even with me, I
So
still have a grudge against the Yankees.
yeah, well, there was somebody I've always grown up watching, and you know, you form such all the players, the history about the team. You got to continue to root for them, even though they aren't playing well at times, and you just kind of push through that. Now there are teams like that I have friends on, like the Rangers and other teams that I root for because I'm obviously rooting for my team, for a friend of mine that I'm wanting to see succeed. So, I mean, the Dodgers, for instance, I'm gonna get flack as a Braves player for rooting for the Dodgers, but I have friends on the Dodgers, so.
I wish I could remember the kid's name, but we actually there's I live like 20 minutes from Keosauqua, and there was a guy, I think he played at the same time you were for Mississippi, from Keosauqua, and he started out as an undrafted, went to like a camp, and I can't think of the kid's name off the top of my head, but we're kind of like Louisiana, where we don't have like every once in a while we'll get a kid that goes in high up in the draft or something, but usually they're ones that went to the University of Iowa, but they're not actually from Iowa or something like that.
Right.
Um, so you're still relatively young. I know you haven't played for a couple of years. Has there been any thought of, hey, maybe, try latching back on, or is that pretty much all over with for you?
It's done for me. I started, so me and my dad, when we had this time off, we started a baseball business during COVID. Whenever the season got canceled, we opened up a baseball business, kept it rolling while I was playing. I jumped back into it when I retired. One of the main reasons I kind of got out of it was in July of 2023, my son was born, my first son. Well, I got 3 days at home. He was born on Friday. I had to turn on leave on Monday to go back to playing, and I didn't get to see him again until he was 8 weeks old. And from newborn to 8 weeks old, they change so much. I mean, they become a much bigger child. They act totally different. They look totally different, and that had a big impact on me. So what I was looking for, and I was a free agent going into the off season, what I was looking for was a deal to where either my wife can follow and travel with me and I can have my kids at all times, or I could be somewhere close to home and still get, paid a decent amount. For instance, Jackson was a great setup for me because it was about 2 hours from the house. And that's about as close as I could get. But they were doing away with the Jackson team, and I wasn't getting re-signed by the Braves, so it made sense for me to just completely retire altogether and go home and just become a dad and find a job that best suited me. And I haven't regretted that decision, and I probably never will. So
Is coaching in your future though?
I do currently coach. I coach a 12-year old travel team right now. And we do go to some big places. We're going to Houston next weekend. We're going to be in Marietta, Georgia, at the end of June. So we do a little bit of traveling. They get to experience some of the highly talented baseball across the United States, and that is what I'm doing now, and I'll probably continue to do until my son's old enough where I can coach him and follow along there. Um, but yeah, it's very at a younger group than I'm not jumping into high school coaching. I'm not really looking for a full time job in it. I'm more so just jumping in and trying to pass on some knowledge that I've had and have some fun doing it. When you play 8 to 10 tournaments a year, that's not a huge time commitment, and it ends up being a really good time.
So are we gonna have a Chipper Jones situation with you and your kids where, eventually you're just gonna ingrain baseball into him, and he's gonna be number one overall pick in, I don't know, 2040 or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what his year is, but we I'm not going to be the dad that ingrains it into him. I'm like, look, you do whatever you want. He does love it right now because my brother's played at LSU. I got one brother there that's a sophomore now, and so he's constantly watching baseball. We're constantly watching baseball. We're going to baseball games. He's got his set of baseball stuff in the backyard. He also likes golf, and so I'm like, look, dude, I love golf. Don't be scared to get into golf. But if he's in anything, I think it'll be a win. And I just want him to be competitive and be respectful and, all the things that dad wants. But he currently does love it. I'm just not going to try to drain that love from it. I don't want to wear it out so much that he hates it, if that makes sense.
Oh, completely, completely. I understand it completely. I've known kids like that myself where, they force them into playing, when the kid doesn't want to play, and eventually the kid just becomes remorseful, or not remorseful, where they just hate it, and they begin to uh really put that on the parents and all that stuff too, where, hey, you made me do this and I didn't want to do this.
Right.
So I completely understand. So, like I said, I wanted to keep this, we're a little bit over an hour, but I appreciate you spending the time with me. Why don't you tell the listeners what you're up to, and where they can find you at?
Yeah. So right now I'm working for a real estate company. Here in West Monroe, Louisiana. I sell real estate all across Louisiana. It's Coldwell Banker, Group One Realty. I own a baseball academy called Pearson Baseball Academy, and we do baseball lessons, softball lessons. We work with teams. We kind of specialize in a lot of variety of player development across baseball, softball, high school, college, even some professional athletes that we work with. Um, so those are kind of taking up the majority of my work life. At home, I'm a dad to two kids, a boy and a girl, and it's Jesse and Bonnie, and my wife Faith, of course, just the anchor to all of this. And we live out here in the country on 5 acres. We love hunting and fishing. We love getting dirty. I mean, we just have a good time. We like to eat now. I used to have to watch what I ate. Now I just eat whatever. So yeah, just enjoying life, trying to take it day by day and not trying to stress about too much. I've been really grateful for some of the people that have been in my life recently to kind of mentor me into the transition from baseball, being told what to do and show up and when to do all this, and to kind of me being a business owner and me working my own schedule and how to balance that with life. Because when I first got out of baseball, I was spending a lot of time, answering texts at 10 p.m. and not being around, taking a phone call late at night. And when you're a business owner, that's what you do. I mean, you have nobody to kind of tell you when your hours you're cut off. So, that was neglecting the purpose of why I came home in the first place. I came home to be around my kids and to spend time with them, and I jumped right back into it. So I had some great people along the way that told me, let's not answer our phone after 6 o'clock, unless it's an emergency. Let's put our phone down. Let's spend time with our kids. And I think that's been a blessing to me, and being able to stay home and do all these fun things, and grow up being a dad. And I've enjoyed my time at home. But yes, you can find us you can find me at jacobpearsonrealestate.com. You can find us at pearsonbaseballacademy.com. You can do a quick Google search with Jacob Pearson baseball or Jacob Pearson real estate. We're on Facebook, Twitter, you name it, Instagram. We're on all the platforms. We're not the content creating group. We're just the get the business group. So
Well, that was going to be my next thing. When are you going to start the content creation? Because that seems to be,
um,
you got Eric Sims that's doing his stuff, and the Bat Bros, and those guys
yeah.
that seem to be able to get their stuff going. So are we going to see the Pearson Bros out there doing their content creation sometime?
Honestly, you probably will, just because we experiment a lot, and it's really when the three of us get around each other, me and my two brothers, it's a great time. I mean, we're laughing, we're coming up with crazy ideas, and we're doing crazy things. So we might end up having a content creation at some point. Um, I don't know when, and it may be in the next couple of years, and it's going to be really goofy. I'm sure we might start a podcast. We might just be really goofy. I don't know, but it'll be sometime. I'm sure soon. Who knows?
Let me know. I'll help you out with it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm gonna need. I have no, like I said, no really tech savvy knowledge when it comes to that. So
Well, we've been doing our podcast for almost 4 years now. So, yeah, if you guys start doing it, let me know, and I'll give you as much info as I can on it, and get
well,
you in the
well, I appreciate
right
that. I think
course.
that'd be a great idea for just my brothers are goofy. And I'm goofy, but they're really goofy. So it'd be good to get on the
Nothing
podcast
wrong
one
with
day.
that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. But
So
thank you, Jacob, for joining. I feel like a pest when I start messaging people about trying to get on the podcast and all that. And I messaged you the other day, I get kind of paranoid when there's that long distance gap between communications. Like, okay, I think we're still set up, but I'm going to send this message just in case.
yeah.
But I appreciate you getting on. Appreciate you talking to me. Make sure everybody goes over, gives him a follow, gives him a look at the Pearson Academy, the realty. If you're in Louisiana area, make sure you go through them and get your land and your houses. You can follow us obviously at the Ohana _Packers on Twitter, Ohana Packers Edition all over everywhere else. I'm at Iowa_Joe86 on Twitter. I am a little bit more on Blue Sky than I am on Twitter anymore, just because it seems a little bit less congested over on Blue Sky than on the Twitter machine. But that's it for this week. Next week, I can't remember which one I have scheduled for a guest, but I do know I have a couple of more guests lined up, and then I'm kind of stuck. I am going to throw this out there again. I am looking to talk to somebody about paranormal. So if anybody knows somebody with a paranormal podcast or anything like that, hit me up so we can get something scheduled there. But with that said, as Mike would say, go Pack Go and aloha.
Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for all let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for all you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.